Welcome to Rising Tides, the business podcast where we explore how business professionals across industries make waves and rise above the competition. Join Angela Merziff and myself, Kim Hayden, as we talk to inspiring business professionals from entrepreneurs to executives about the strategies and tactics they use to get ahead. From their failures to their successes, you'll get an inside look at what it takes to make it in the business world today.
Hey,
how you how you doing, Angela?
Great. How are you doing, Kim?
I'm doing good. I'm well. Okay, it's Stampede Week here, folks. Stampede Week in Calgary,
Right.
Alberta, Canada. This is worse than the week between Christmas and New Year's. I swear to God.
Nothing is happening and everyone's drunk.
I have.
Welcome to Calgary.
Well, I did 2 events on Tuesday, and everybody goes, "Oh, you went to 2 events? That's awesome." I go in with a sole purpose of networking. My job is a front of funnel, and there was something about 8 hours of focused conversation that left me so hungover on Wednesday, I could barely focus to drive. I'm like going,
So you're
Wednesday,
hungover for different reasons than everybody else this
I
week.
know it's that energy hangover, and you know that's it. And it's amazing what great connectors, great conversationalists, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business leaders, those conversations you can have. And it's like I get so tied in deep. I get so tied in deep.
Well, we're going to have another great conversation today.
I am excited. Today's guest is Linsey Shelton. She is a brand strategist that keeps your eyes on the prize. Linsey started a website designer and copywriter, but she knew there was just had to be more a straightforward way to connect content that connects. So she co-founded Waymaker in 2021 with Angel. I love that name, Angel Moreland, to inspire entrepreneurs to dream wildly and then go do that. I love this. I'm getting a lot of inspiration on this show through this dream. Welcome, Linsey.
Hi, Linsey.
Hi. Are you starting to sweat in your she shed?
No, I left the air conditioner on. So
Okay.
I love that you have a she shed. My husband definitely needs to build me one of those.
Oh my God, I love it so much. I can't even describe it. It started as a regular shed, and I legitimately did all of the work inside of it, like, putting in the
Love it.
insulation. I did hire a guy to do the electric.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
But you can't see the windows, but there's all these. I have 6 windows in here. So there's windows over here, windows over there, windows over here. And we moved this shed from the last house that we were in. So when we moved, I hired someone. It cost like $500, and to me that was like absolutely
worth it.
100% worth it. Also, if you ever need like an adrenaline rush, you just watch them do something like that.
Did they crane it? Did they have to crane it out of your backyard, or was it all manpower and truck?
So they have these wicked trailers now, and my last backyard was nice and easy and flat, and we took down a portion of the fence, and they got it out no problem. But this backyard is like it like goes down and then around, and it has trees all over the place. So I'm like sweating bullets because it's the Dutch roof, so it has a nice big ceiling and whatever. It's 13 feet. So if it leans, like it's like a 13-foot angle, right? But they have this trailer that like moves all around. So he's got like a little remote control, and he's like guiding it down the hill. And I'm like, I can't watch. And my husband's like, man, I want to drive that.
This is why boys play video games when they're younger. Yeah. Boys and their video games, right?
Boys and their toys. Boys and their toys.
It was incredible. It was the feat of engineering. And he just was like, yeah, okay, so bye. And I'm like, you just blew my mind. Like, I didn't even know these things were possible. And here you are.
Anything's possible.
We craned a shed from one house to another house. But because of the way that the back alleys and everything were, the only thing you do is have a crane from the front street. So this big crane goes over the house and picks up our shed. and then drove, because we literally just moved like 8 blocks away when,
Okay.
and so literally
That's craneable.
it's got this giant, it's literally like a 10 by 12 shed. It's not a little thing. It's driving through our old community of McKenzie Town with the shed
Ah,
hanging
and then
above
Godzilla'd
it.
it across the community. Nice.
It's amazing.
Did you play like some kind of soundtrack on boombox as you're going through
Yeah,
the neighborhood?
yeah.
Next time.
Well, we could talk about sheds all day, but let's talk about you and what you do for business outside of your or inside your she shed here. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to doing what you're doing today, Linsey.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that the shed is like it's like a metaphor for what I do, and I think that it's like creating peace in, or it's advocating for peace and helping you figure out what that's going to look like for you in your business. So it started off a couple years ago. I was doing work with one of my girlfriends on the side. We did websites, we did back office processes. We just supported businesses to be as amazing as they could be. And then we started getting a lot of website work from small businesses. And we were like, guys, small business is notorious for having like no brand at all. And as a designer, my job is to implement your brand. And so when it's like impossible for me to deliver a really impactful website without a solid brand. Like if you don't know really who your client is, really what's important to them, what they need to hear, that kind of thing, makes my life difficult. So yeah, so we ended up creating a process for going through this brand process where you really dig into like why you're in business and what does that mean about your mission, your vision, who your clients are, how your services really stack up to their needs, and then what you want to say about those things. In my approach was to systematize this because I am a super structured person. So I build it once, it's got a structure, and I can repeat and wash. And they bring in, you know, the flavor of their business and all of the history that they've had with their clients. But the point to me is always structure. So anyways, I created this for one client. Okay. I wrote it on the contract before I created it. Then I sold it. Then I made Brand Planner. And it was like this whirlwind. And after I delivered that one time, I was like, oh, well, I'm never doing anything else. Like this is the jam. I love this. And really it's workshops and talking and making decisions and helping people to make decisions easier so it doesn't feel so painful and they don't feel so big. And eventually, you know, we shucked our previous business, which was part of my husband's. Like I just did side work under my husband's company, and this was our chance to step out and create something of our own. So we created Waymaker, and we launched Brand Planner as our little baby, our first project, our first product. Then we adapted it for solopreneurs. So I took something that we did for teams, where we did it in like a team environment, and we created synthesis around ideas. And then I started delivering it to multiple solopreneurs in a group experience, which is super cool for solopreneurs because we're just so lonely all the time. And so it's nice to just hear how other people are thinking about it and whatever. And then last year, after we delivered Brand Planner a bunch, I decided, like, at the end of it, we create like a plan, a 6-month plan of you. All right, so you got this awesome brand that you want to use. Here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. Here's are the things in between that are going to make all that possible, right? Like this is how we become a real boy, right? So we have this 6-month plan, and then you have to stick to it. You have to like do all of the work. You have to change the website, update the graphics, change your messaging. How do you describe yourself on LinkedIn? All of that stuff, and people get lost in in the doing, in the execution,
Right.
which is my jam. So, so then I created Action Planner last January. I kicked it off as a pilot program, and basically it's a weekly call where we go through all the best practices that you already know that you should be doing, but you kind of brush off because who has time to do the best practices, right? And what it creates is space and focus. So spaciousness on my calendar. My inbox is, we're always striving for inbox zero. We want to get those emails down. We're looking ahead in our calendars to see what we have coming up. What does that mean? Like, do I have an important task that I need to do? So that our brains are no longer just like, oh my God, I have to do the next thing, right? Like, we can't future think in a frenetic pace where you're like about to miss a deadline, so you're just like sweating bullets and working really hard. You can't be a boss that scales a business in that way, and you can't create a brand that way. So Action Planner was created simply to slow you down, slow your thinking down, and create space on your calendar so that you have time to do the things that you decide are the most important things in your business. And we do that through, just like I did with Brand Planner, creating an experience where we're doing the work together. And by the time you leave, you're 100% different than the moment you came. Like, you feel like you're together, you have a plan, your calendar's blocked off, you've triaged your email, and you're ready to start your weekend without thinking, like, worrying that you're going to forget something. And then Monday, you just check the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah. Well, that's where people get stuck. Like you say, it's like we have this great, brand now. We know all that, but it's no good if it sits on a shelf. So how do we execute, and how do we do that without getting overwhelmed? And that's where, like you say, especially solopreneurs, we've got no one else on our team to kind of help us out. We're doing all the things. And so how do you then execute on this big plan that you've just put together? So tell me, your action planner, is that more geared towards the solopreneur? Who is the audience for this? Who's the perfect fit for this quarterly
Yeah, so
planning
it's
workshop?
solopreneurs, it's people with teams. You can step into Action Planner and be a better boss. You can just be a better boss to yourself, or you could be a better boss to your team. Because we've all had the managers that aren't managing very well. They're not delegating in time, and that creates so much friction in your team. So this is really for anybody who's in a state of they procrastinate. They get right up to the edge of that deadline before it's done, or they're scooting deadlines, or they're scooting meetings to make space because they didn't make space before. I have been part of a team where like our weekly staff meeting was like constantly rescheduled along the week. And it's like, 15 people's schedules are now disrupted all of the time because my boss just couldn't go to the meeting. Like, she stacked her calendar and stacked all of her to-dos so that, it disrupted everybody's schedule. So I would say it's for bosses as well, of teams. Teams of one and teams of many.
Yeah, that makes sense, because like you say, your organization level affects everybody else in the company as well, because it just flows through to their busy schedules as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking soon that I'm going to start a new offer where I do Action Planners specifically for a team, and we customize the experience for how that company is run.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I haven't like totally pinned it down yet, but
yeah, I think you could totally do that. It makes a lot of sense. Just like your brand strategy is geared, one way or the other way, because there is a difference. When you're running strategy for a group of people, there has to be a consensus of, what is our main goal and all that
Yeah.
versus a solopreneur. They're kind of looking
Yeah, and we
maybe.
might need to look at certain systems, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
this customer runs on Asana, so everyone's got to clear their Asana inboxes, respond,
Right.
right? How
Right.
amazing would that be if everybody cleared their inbox at the
Oh
same
my gosh. I need help. I need help. Oh, I try so hard, but then it's like, yeah, anyway, that's another
time?
topic for another day. Maybe I need to talk to you too. So how do you feel that, your service here with the action planner, what do you feel is unique about it that maybe there's something that's missing in the marketplace that you've covered with your service? How do you-
So, what I have found is that there are productivity specialists, which will help you dig into bad behaviors. There are some companies that will help you do like a triage call, like what's important to me this week. And then there's co-working groups where you can show up and work with people. But I have found it's only us that does it this particular way, where we show up as a group. The call is structured. You're not just left to your own devices, which is normally to squirrel on the thousands of emails that you have or all the tabs that you have going up. And I guide people through the exercise. So I'll introduce, you say the first thing that we do is review the current week. How did we do? We measure our performance because everybody's tracking the big 3 things that are important to them. And then they say why. They try to dig into the why of that. Was it that because sometimes you don't make the mark. Oftentimes we do not. And so a new customer starts off in the red. Normally they're overly ambitious with the things they think they can do, and they're not able to accomplish them. And then over time, the experience of reflecting is what helps you to adjust your behaviors. So we'll walk through this reflection, and I'll introduce it. I'll say, we're framing the conversation here. We're going to jot down what went well, what didn't go so well, what do I hope to do, what do I need to stop doing. There's 5 minutes on the clock. We play some lo-fi music, and then I stop talking, and then we do the work. We sit there with our books, and we just reflect on the week. And then we go through a series of exercises. So we're looking at our notes. When's the last time you looked at your notes to find the tasks that you said you were going to write down, but if they don't actually get to your list? If the tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? Right? So we look for all that. We we triage email. We look for it in our calendars. We decide on what the big 3 for next week are. They share it. Everybody has a grid where they're working their quarter. So that next week they come back and they do it again. So the unique thing about Action Planner is that we are doing the work together. We're measuring our performance, and we're super focused for an hour, and then that's it. I'm not bothering you throughout the week. There's no thought experiments. There's no theory. There's just action. That's all it is. Although I will bother you if you give me a lightning bolt. Because the lightning bolt means that you want to nudge in the middle of the week, and I'll check in and ask you if you did that the number 1 thing on your list.
Aha. Yeah, that sounds very helpful. I love that you do the work in real time. That's, I've been part of other workshops where it's like, you get the information and
It's a
get
lot of
the
shoulds.
education. Yeah. And you're, kind of just absorbing everything. But then you've spent that time there. Then you also have to spend the time and create your plan or like work things out. So I love that you do it in real time with your expertise and also with others in the room where you could bounce ideas off of each other. It's almost like you're getting 2 workshops in one, which is great, right? And then the nudge
Yeah.
throughout the week if you need it. So
Yep.
yeah, that sounds very helpful. Yeah, so for your clients, when you're in these quarterly planning sessions, and for everybody listening, how can business owners start prioritizing their day, their week, their month, their year what's a good first step? Like if they're thinking of doing that, they know they need help in that area. What are some actionable steps you can give them?
Yeah, so if you're a bit of a squirrel chaser, when it comes to creating a cohesive strategy or execution daily, um, you want the trouble with behavior is that patterns feel good, right? So my advice is always to take the path of least resistance and to start small so that you can keep it up. Um, like for instance, when COVID hit, I really was over time, like we didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to like dress myself. I got to a point where I wasn't waking up and taking care of myself. And so I asked a friend of mine if she would be interested in meeting at 6:30 in the morning. So the goal was just to get up on time. We started small and we got up on time. And then we would say, okay, we're going to get up and we're going to drink our glass of water. We're going to make sure we've done our basic things, like we brushed our hair, we brushed our teeth, all right? So that goes on. And then a couple weeks later, we say, okay, well, what are the three most important things to you? What are you going to do today, right? That felt okay because we had taken the time to build on. And then it kept going from there. We did 10 minutes of yoga. We chatted a little bit, but it takes time. So getting better at hitting deadlines or signing off at 4 or following up at meetings, it's all tied together, and getting there takes time and it takes patience. So you know yourself best. If you decide, to start going to the gym, would you be most likely to go to the gym by yourself? Would you be most likely to go to the gym with a friend? Are you someone who likes to show up at a class, right? If you set a date with yourself, are you going to make that date? Are you going to go there? I personally will not. That's why I created Action Planner, because I'll show up for you, but I will not show up for myself. So so I would recommend a weekly 45-minute date with yourself if you show up for yourself, right? And you're just going to go through and just decide on, take a look at your next week, decide on the three most important things, and then, jot down a thing for Monday, a thing for Tuesday, a thing for Wednesday, a thing for Thursday, a thing for Friday. If that feels like too much, then I would recommend taking 5 minutes every single morning just to look at your calendar. Just say, what am I doing today? And what did I think was the most important thing? Do I have time for that today? So just organize your day. Sometimes we have to start there. After I did Action Planner for a couple of months, then I started thinking quarterly, and that's when I developed the quarterly workshop, right? So sometimes we have to focus like really small. We just have baby steps. I am a person that wakes up and looks at my calendar. I'm a person that plans weekly. I'm a person that plans quarterly and monthly and weekly and check in daily, right? So baby steps is what I would recommend. The path of least resistance. And if you don't show up for yourself, ask somebody else.
Yes, just like going to the gym. And it's amazing, like you mentioned, the whole your routine falling apart during COVID. I totally resonated with that. It's amazing how fast that can happen, because I was a person that woke up early and then
Yeah.
everything just kind of fell apart, and I was getting up later and later and later and later in the day, and I was like, what is going on right now with me? And I never did that before. But yeah, patterns just
Same.
fall apart so easily if we're not consciously choosing them, right?
Yes. So we don't want to think big and we don't want to think perfect. We just want to think the next smallest thing. It's the idea of atomic habits from James Clear. Same thing. Like what's going to make a 1% difference?
Yes, and compiled over time, it compounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just becomes what you do. Don't even
Yes.
have to think
Yeah.
about it.
I
Yeah, I
launched
love it.
my women's podcast during COVID, and I would do live recordings at 9 a.m. 2 times a week. So I knew that 2 times a week I was getting up and being accountable, and I had to be in studio by 9, which is my spare bedroom. But that one thing led to doing the next thing and next thing, and literally shifting that has
Mm-hmm.
changed the entire trajectory of my business.
So
And
would you say that those particular days in your week were different and better than the other days in your week?
yep, absolutely, absolutely. I spaced them so that I knew going out of that the following 24 or 48 hours, I had X amount of things to execute and do. So I learned how to edit these. I learned how to do the blogs. I learned how to do it all because I had somebody that I knew I was responsible to. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that goes with what you're saying. It's like we don't
Yes.
tend to do things for ourselves, but we tend to do it for others.
Mm-hmm.
And it is crazy how setting those markers in place, setting those connectivity spaces in place help move you forward.
Yes.
How long do you see that it takes for some of your clients to actually get into a new pattern? Like how long does it take them?
Well, most people who commit, I mean, like who join the membership, they
Mhm.
show up because if you're not there, I do say something to you. Like it's not like I don't, I'm sending you an email that says, "Hey, we really missed you," and then I'll give you like some short guidance. Like it's okay if you didn't plan with us. What are your 3 for the week, right? So make that quick decision at least. And I'll give them a link to the deck because everybody has a link to, we do like, they're called quarter cards. And so we have the normal deck and then everybody has their card for the entire quarter. And it's cool because we can, as people change their colors, like one week maybe I'm red because I said I would do all of these things and I did 0. And then the next week I'm yellow because I did 2 out of 3. Some weeks I'm green. And so you can see your quarter, like it's like a heat map. And then we asked, like, does this align to your monthly goals? Does this align to your quarterly goals? And not that it's good or bad, but when we are aware of our patterns, we change our patterns, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I got on a tangent there. I don't remember what your question was.
Just how
I just
long does
love
it take
color.
to make that difference? Like to finally get into a routine? What do you see? What's the
Mm.
common time frame that it
I
takes?
would say probably like 6 weeks.
Okay, so it takes some time. Takes
Hmm.
some time to get
Yeah,
there.
like, but they're showing up, and in that 6 weeks, maybe their color is not the best, right? They haven't gotten to a
Right.
green, but I do see people start with, like, I've had one lady started with over 40,000 emails.
Oh my goodness, how does that even happen? Wow.
Easy,
I
easy. Sign up for
easily,
Haro. Help a
yeah,
realtor, help
right?
help a reporter out. You get 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening. And I may just go back and read them all, but I'll leave them
Oh
for
my
now.
gosh.
Right. Oh no, I'm
Right.
gonna save them. I'm gonna save them. Mm-hmm. Yes. So you'll see things like that, like my emails. Every time we start the email triage section, I'll gamify it. I'll say, okay, everybody, drop the number of emails you're working with right now. I want to see it in the chat. How many emails you got? And at first, it's like 3,742, and then it's like 126. Over time, those get really small. And then my OGs, the guys that have been there for like 6 months to a year, when we see 75, we're like, oh my God, what were you, did you go on vacation? What's happening?
Yeah.
So
So you got
normally they'll come
yeah.
and they'll have like 40, you know?
Yeah. So give us a quick tip on email inbox. Clearing that out. What I know people are wondering, and I'm wondering, how do you even get there with the email
Okay.
inbox?
So here's what I always say to people when we do our email triage. I tell them to take their CEO hat right off their head and just go ahead and sit it on over here. The person who's like always thinking about the marketing and like everything that's going on in the business. And we're going to put on our personal assistant hat. And that personal assistant is there to protect your time and attention. That's her job. That's his job. And so you're going, the most important thing you can do is delete. So if you can delete it, you should. The second thing we do is unsubscribe. If it is not feeding your marketing every time there's an email, then it goes. If you're not reading it every single time, it's got to go, because every time it hits your inbox, it's a distraction, and you cannot afford that as an entrepreneur. All right, so we are unsubscribing mercilessly. Then, if it's a 60 seconds or less response, we go ahead and do that. If it's not, we make it a task. So the framing of the brain is what I'm going to do in this 10 minutes, and you can use the Pomodoro method and say for 20 minutes, all it is email. But you approach it in a very systematic way. My first pass is always deleting. Well, I guess it has to be unsubscribed, because you may be deleting things that you would unsubscribe. So we're going to unsubscribe, then we're going to delete, and then we're going to quick respond, and then we're going to make a task. And you can do that using some of Gmail's functions, or I don't know about other providers, because I love the Gmail, but they have like stars or exclamation points or things like that. Use those to your advantage. This is something that's for reference. It has a question mark. This is something that I need to handle, so I'm gonna make that my little task, and it's gonna pop up to the top of my box. But then everything else melts, because you're protecting your time and attention. That's your job for 20 minutes. No other job. Does that help?
Yeah, that's super helpful. Unsubscribe, delete, tasks that take 60 seconds or less to respond, or make it a task on your list, on your to-do list. I love
Because
that.
we can get lost on like the big things, we want to attack the juicy thing. And I will read over like the email that I'm writing like 45 times, because I want it to be right. So if I get lost writing an email and reading it over and over and over again, then all the other emails don't get tackled. So that's why we do that last. So we can make a huge chunk, just make it disappear.
Yeah, you know what? It's the subscriptions. That's what just bogs me down. Like
I
there's
have
just
an email just for subscriptions that goes to a different email that I can check
Ooh.
later. Yeah, maybe that's another one you could put on your
Yep.
list.
You could, or you could take them all. My dad does this. He's like he like routes things to his specific folder, and then it's in my folder. But I always think, like, listen, if that thing that I want to buy is important to me, it's going to be important at that time. I know who to go to buy that thing. I can resubscribe and wait 3 days for the next discount email, and then unsubscribe. Like, I can do that. I'm an adult. I don't need to be bombarded and buy things I don't need and feel overwhelmed by my inbox. Like, that's not a good use of my time or attention.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also add, making use of keyboard shortcuts. If you're constantly writing the same thing over and over again, you make a shortcut for it where it just pastes it out for you.
I
Or
use Google
even,
Templates.
yeah, I have a Mac, so there's shortcuts on the Mac that you can do. Yeah. And, AI now, you could get AI to respond to emails and stuff like that. There's
Oh my
plugins
God.
for things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, I'm not ready.
I know.
The robots are going to take over, man.
We've seen this movie. Will Smith was in it, but hey,
Right.
it's.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because AI's been a hot topic, and but I think using the tools for good to help you get organized and to maximize your time behind the computer is helpful. The reality is it can't replace the talent as of yet. AI cannot replace the talent.
No.
So
But I'll tell you, my husband, he is a musician, and he used it the other day. I forget who told him, and it wasn't his original idea, but they said that they used ChatGPT, okay, to write a song about a topic in the style of one of these bands, using the phrase. And he was like, oh my God, this thing is really good. Like, I got so many great ideas from them. And he was able to like write a song much faster because.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used it for that purpose too. Just getting ideas, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not good at copy. It's not my thing. It's I can write. However, being precise is my biggest challenge. And Chat GPT, I can put in all of my copy and I can say, write me a 40 word response, write me this, write that. And what happens is it takes all of my eloquent, what
Verbose
is it? Yeah, verbose.
explanations.
Yes, and it
It just
brings it
organizes your thoughts
down.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And my
You say,
husband
make it more better.
make it
Yeah,
more
make it more better.
better.
Exactly. You can do that.
My husband's dyslexic, and it has literally changed the world for him because he is incredibly brilliant. He has such a vast vocabulary. However, I mean, I will tell you, I probably have received in our 30-year marriage maybe a dozen handwritten things from him because it is that hard for him to write.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT is he just produced an entire magazine for his company not recently, and it was literally chat. It took that 12 hours of painstaking work and brought it into a 4-hour process that created a beautiful article. And
Cool.
yeah, so yeah, there's lots
So
going
there's
on there.
another layer for your action planner group. You could start adding that in, because I know there are plugins for responding to emails, and you can set up little shortcuts and things
Actually,
like
that
that.
would be a great side workshop, is to write a couple of
There's an idea for it.
like one of the templates that you always need is
Yeah.
respond to someone from a networking call.
Yeah.
Like, I always respond the same way. I have a template for it, but not everybody does that. And then, man, it takes so much time
You
to
can just save it. You can
be
even save it
original
in your-
constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, creating those workflow emails in auto space is awesome.
Yeah.
And I do like, you have a quote that you share called "Take the steam out of the hard things, make them fun." And I love how everything you have spoken about was simplifying, taking out the things that pressurize us, right? And overwhelm us and stop us from proceeding, right? We don't think about the steps, of how to make macaroni and cheese. You just, when you think about it, but there's multiple steps in that. And if you can explain the multiple steps, then any 12-year-old can make it. But if you just shove the macaroni and cheese in front of them, they're going to look at you and go, oh, this is awesome. How did you do this? Right?
Yeah. Here's the finished product.
Yeah.
Reverse engineer that.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing all your valuable insights with our audience. How can people find you? Where can they get a hold of you at?
So I'm at hellowaymaker.com, and all my socials are on there. I do have a freebie on my site. It's a quick sheet. So I have a planner. I ended up making a planner for myself, to be clear. And my clients were like, what are you using? Can I have that? All right. So I made that I made a planner. But before that, I made a quick sheet, because for me, my baby step was this was too much. And I just needed to know, what are the 4 things I need to get done today? And I'll just say, my personal belief is, I'm not going to do that on a computer, because I'm highly distracted by all the myriad of things that I have to do. But just not to say that I don't use Asana when I'm working in a team, but it is to say that when it's very important to me, it goes on paper, because I can just look down and say, that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm going to do. So it's a quick sheet that it has everything on just one sheet. And I love to put it on a clipboard, because there's like a habit tracker on there when I'm getting real serious about my habits. And I just
Okay.
walk that bad boy around my house. It goes to bed with me. It comes back to my desk, and it just hangs out with me. So there's that. So I would love to, hang out some more. People can connect with me on hellowaymaker.com.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, that sounds like an excellent resource if you just want to take that baby step and plan your day, right? Just start there and see how it
And
goes.
that's / quick sheets, correct?
I think so.
I think that's / So hellowaymaker.com
Mm-hmm.
/ quick sheet. Make sure you go and grab that. There's always something that can be learned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, thanks for your time, Linsey.
This was amazing. I have learned tons. I've been sitting in the background listening and writing notes and just letting you ladies take over the lead on this. All the information that we have talked about will be in the show notes. But until next time, you know what? Be good to yourself. This show is sponsored by Be Bold Branding. Kick that yawn-inducing mission statement to the curb. Visit BeBoldBranding.ca and grab your Bold Manifesto Workbook to create a bold message that connects. Thank you for joining us here at Rising Tides, your business podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And you can follow Angela and Kim over on LinkedIn.